Hi everyone in our extended family, welcome to conference this week. We are studying Man's Search for Meaning, and last week was a beautiful week of teachings and gifts from this book and from Viktor Frankl, and we talked about the power of love and the power of nature and connecting to nature and really getting our cups filled through love and connection with others and connection through nature. And I wanted to share a story with a couple stories actually that I opened up conference on Sunday and asked for students to share a little bit about their process of reading this book and what's coming up for them. And one of our students who recently lost her husband, they'd been married for 40 years, and she's also Jewish, said that it was very hard for her to read this book at this time, but instead just wanted to come and participate in the teachings. And this past week when I talked about the teachings of the power of love, and then I also talked about how in the concentration camps there was an evening Viktor Frankl remembered where they were all so tired and so starved and hungry, and they had their soup in their hand, and someone calls them out to watch the sunset. And she said that that story so moved her because when her husband was diagnosed with cancer, he lived for 2 years with that diagnosis and his imminent death and things shifting in his life. But she said every morning he woke up and took their 2 dogs for a walk for like an hour and a half every morning, and every morning he watched the sunrise and took pictures of the sunrise and got excited about seeing the sunrise, and he was so excited about it he wanted to share it with others, and so he would post them on Facebook every morning. And she goes, I remember, she was very honest, she said, I remember I used to get almost irritated, it's like another sunrise, and these pictures he was posting. But she said, when you told the story about the soup and the man that pulled everyone out to watch the sunrise, it reminded me of my husband. And it reminded me that instead of focusing on imminent death and his cancer, he would joyfully walk the dogs and be so excited to see the colors of the sunrise and to share that with others. And she was just saying what a gift it was for her to remember that, and to remember that for her was to remember that with joy. And she said, I wish I had felt that way. I wish I had that perspective when he was alive. I wish that I was joyful about that. But she goes, but I am now. And she goes, and those pictures of his sunrises are so precious to me. And I just said, I'm like, he was the man that we talked about. I said, could I be that person that in the midst of being so tired and starved and hopeless that I could notice the sunrise and want to call my other colleagues to see it? And that was her husband. In the midst of dying, he was joyfully every morning watching the sunrise and posting it on Facebook to share that with others. So I love that story because again, this book was written in 1949 in a concentration camp, but it's applicable to us today. That is the great message. And the other beautiful one was that someone shared that a lady had told Viktor Frankl that in the window she just had this tiny little view you could barely see out of, but in that view she could see this beautiful branch that through the seasons blossomed, and how much joy that one branch gave her to be able to look out her window and connect with nature. It was very powerful. And so I think sometimes we think about, going to the ocean or these beautiful gardens and things, and sometimes it's just as simple as seeing a hummingbird, and feeling that connection. While you're sitting in your office, maybe it flies up to your window, and that's the possibility for us. This week's teachings are moving into a third, I want to call them gifts for us. So the first would be love, the power of love. The second would be connection to nature. And our third gift, I just want to read you this paragraph. I shall never forget how I awoke from the deep sleep of exhaustion on my second night in Auschwitz, aroused by music. The senior Warren of the hut had some kind of celebration in his room, which was near the entrance of the hut. Tipsy voices bowled some hacking tunes. Suddenly, there was a silence, and into the night the violin sang a desperately sad tango, an unusual tune not spoiled by frequent playing. The violin wept, and a part of me wept with it. For at the same day, someone had a 24th birthday. That someone lay in another part of Auschwitz camp, possibly only a few hundred or thousand yards away, and yet completely out of reach. That someone was my wife. And I think the gift, just from this one paragraph really, is the power of music. It is a gift to us as human beings that we have this language that touches every human emotion that we can experience, from joy to passion to sadness, all of that experienced through this creation of music. And again, how it fills our cup. You know, the way that love can fill our cup, the way that nature can fill our cup. The same with music, and it is a cup of medicine. You know, that we drink sometimes, it can just change your mood. It can take you from a very irritated place all of a sudden to a very calm place. It can take you to a place of remembering. You know, music has so many gifts for us. So this week I shared one of my favorite TED Talks, which is on our homepage, by a conductor named Benjamin Zander. And he is a man filled with passion for life. And this TED Talk is 20 minutes, and it's all about life. It actually has a beautiful story about a woman he met who tells a story about being in the concentration camps. And she and her younger brother were on the trains to the camp, and she remembers, as older sister would, like her brother didn't have his shoes on, and she was angry at him. She's like, kind of yelled at him, "Why don't you have your shoes? What's wrong with you? Why don't you have your shoes?" And she was telling Benjamin Zander that she sadly remembers that's the last thing that she ever said to her brother, and how forever she's remembered that and tries to think when she speaks to people that it could be the last thing that she says to someone. And again, just this beautiful message for us through this TED Talk that is really about classical music. And Benjamin Zander, somehow I don't know where the statistic came from, that 3% of the population listens to classical music, and he's trying to move the bar to 4%. So he does this beautiful teaching with the piece by Chopin, and it's so moving that I would like to share it with all of you on our YouTube channel, but also encourage you to. We'll also link into this song by Chopin, and just to do a meditation around it. On Sunday, we all just closed our eyes, thought of someone we truly love that has passed, and just let the music and all the notes in between the beginning and the end of the song just really like fill us with memories of life and love and all that has to offer us. And last night I just kind of stumbled into a song I hadn't heard for a long time by Pearl Jam, and it's a song called "The Road." And it had the same effect on me as did the Chopin song. I wept. It was just so beautiful. The lyrics were beautiful, the tune was beautiful, and it filled me with memories, and it filled me with a thought of the great quote that I'm about to read to you. 4 words that Viktor Frankl said: "Say yes to life." And when you hear Chopin, I think when you hear the very last note, you may feel this. I felt this listening to the Pearl Jam song as well, but music is such an amazing gift for us, such a beautiful gift that we can reach out to and drink it in and use it as medicine for different things. Sometimes I just need to be joyful, right? So here in this class we play some crazy African dance music, and that makes us want to dance, and other times, I want to play music while I'm cooking something, so I play the Cuban music, the Buena Vista Social Club, and other times I just want to sit in memory and listen to a song that might make me weep a little bit, or make me remember things that, we talked about this again. Kael Gibran in the chapter in the Prophet on sorrow says the depth of your love, really the depth of your happiness, will be the depth of your sorrow. I mean, how else could it be, right? But who among us would choose shallow love in order to not suffer loss? Because when I think of loss over here, loss in and of itself is just painful. But when loss is combined with love, as Viktor Frankl says, it has meaning. It's beautiful. So our music has that potential to take us through all the notes in between that. So Viktor Frankl said, "There is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is meaning in one's life. Nevertheless, say yes to life," a psychologist's experience in a concentration camp. And I added to this a quote by Maya Angelou. "On Saturday afternoons, when all things are done in the house and there's no real work to be done, I play Bach and Chopin and turn it up real loudly and get a bottle of Chardonnay and sit out on the deck and look out at the garden." So here's your homework. This week, follow the footsteps of Maya Angelou. Play your favorite music loudly, sit in your garden, sip your favorite drink, and say yes to life.